Alright, so today I'm going to show my refrigerator is making a strange noise every like 3 or 4 minutes, and I determined that it was this blend door. And what I'm showing you now is a new blend door. I'm going to do is test this one with a 12 volt power supply, because this new blend door says it's 12 volts. So I'm going to do a quick test and show you what a functional blend door is supposed to do. So I'm just going to put with this 12 volt power supply, insert a negative. It's a little hard to do with trying to do the camera. Well, you'll see, if we can get a good view, is when you hit the power, you'll see the blend door opens up. And then what happens is when you reverse the polarity, so you change the negative, into this spot, and the positive into this spot, the door closes, and it closes nice and smooth. We'll do that once more. Oops, touched it a little bit. And you'll see that the door will open, and then it all stops and no noise, very smooth. And then when we get to the refrigerator, let me close this door by reversing the polarity again, and I assume that's what the refrigerator does on its own. So now it's closed. So you saw that was nice and smooth. And now we're going to tackle tearing out that bed unit. So this is my fridge unit. It's a built-in GE Monogram style. And every once in a while, like every 3 minutes, it'll make this funny noise. It's hard to get it to repeat it, but it's coming from the blend door, which is in the bottom left hand corner of the refrigerator. And what it does is takes the cold air from the freezer, which is on the bottom right side. I don't want to take all this apart, but you can possibly see a little vent down at the bottom corner. And what that blend door does is it opens up, the flap opens and lets the cold air from the freezer go into the refrigerator to cool the refrigerator. Now, the refrigerator is cooling, as you can see, but it makes that noise when the blend door opens, because there's obviously a problem with it, bad gear or something. Now, truth be told, this will be the second time around for this, because I took it apart about a week ago with what I thought was the correct part, and it ended up being the wrong blend door I had ordered based on the model number and such. So this will be the second time around, and it'll be a little bit easier. So we're gonna get into it, get some tools, and get going. So as you can see with my refrigerator, I have a panel on the front, and this wood panel gets very close to the corner of the countertop when it opens. There's actually a notch in the countertop that they made when they did the countertops. So what there is there is a little stop under the door from the factory. It gives you certain locations to limit the opening of the door, how far you could open it. So I'm going to get under there and I'm going to show you, basically just unscrews. It's going to be a little loose from the last time I did this. I didn't tighten it up, so I could probably take it out by hand. So I'm going to go in there and take that pin out. So now we're under the door, and you can see the pin is, let's get to the side so you can see it. There's this pin right here. And I left it in loose. So let's just unscrew it by hand. Basically what that does is it's just a stop pin. Screws in, and this piece of metal here hits the pin and stops the door from opening when it gets to 90 degrees. So that's step one. So now, being that I got the pin out, the door will open more than 90 degrees, but the door will hit the countertop. We're not allowing it to open more than 90 degrees because the panel will hit the door. So what I have to do is I have to take the panel off, and basically what you have to do is access some screws behind this metal clip here. So the first thing you do is you take off this plastic holder, 2 screws on the top. So for speed I just left that off last time. And now you're going to take off this cover plate, which covers the screws on the edge of the door. This is the edge of the door where the handle is. And you pull this off, and it's just held on with 2-way tape, and it slides into the same plastic bracket on the bottom. So you'll just lift it right out. Just lift it out from the bracket, take it off and put it to the side. And then next we're going to have to remove these screws. So now we have these screws on the edge of this door frame that's going to hold the panel on. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 screws. So it's just a matter of removing these screws. Leave the top ones on to hold it while you remove the rest of them. And again, they're loose because this is the second time around in a week. And I'll take out all the screws and then resume the video. Okay, so I've removed all the screws, and now what we're just going to do is pull off this metal trim, and it's got a little L in it which slides into the slot on the wood panel. Now I installed those panels, so I knew how to take this apart and put those screws over here for later. Head back here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the panel. So we're going to remove the panel now. We're going to open the door. What we're going to do is slide the panel out. And it's heavy. I'm going to set it off to the side. So now our panel is off. Our pin is out, and now we can open the door more than 90 degrees. You can see it opens more than 90 degrees. It opens almost fully, and that's necessary because in the next step we're going to have to remove some of these drawers. And if you were smart, unlike me, you would empty them first. What we do is just slide it out, lift the front, tip it back out. Set that off to the side. And what we're going to do is take the second drawer out, lift the front, back, set it off to the side. one out as well. Lift the back out, take it out, put it to the side. So that's out. 3 drawers are out. And what we're going to do next is we're going to need to remove this tray, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws that hold this, and that's the noise that we're trying to fix. The dampener door, that when it opens it's over revving itself. So I'm going to take out these 4 screws, and what that'll do is that'll release this shelf that we can slide it out. And actually, before I take out the 4 screws, let me just adjust this so we can get an angle. So before we take out those 4 screws, we're actually going to take out this glass shelf. And the glass shelf was removed by lifting the back, tipping it up past those stops back there. See the stop back there? So you can lift up the, so you can get a better angle. So we tip up the back and slide it back. And what that allows is you now to get it in this slot, both sides, and just slide it forward. And then we'll set that off to the side. And now we're going to take out these 4 screws that hold this shelf in. So I've taken out 3 of the 4 screws. This is the last screw, and I might be a little bit out of order. I believe that this rack is going to have to come out. You see, the 4 screws are out. Set those off to the side. And then what you'll see is under here, I left off the cover from the last go around at this, but this will now slide, the shelf will now slide out. And you see it's got electric power to it. It's a thermostat to regulate the power to regulate the temperature on the drawer. So actually, let me slide this back in. And there is a panel on the back here, this panel here. We're gonna take these 4 screws out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple. And I'm doing this with a manual screwdriver. If you had a cordless screw gun, screwdriver would be much simpler or faster. Just to show you that it could still be done the old-fashioned way, sticking with a manual screwdriver. Okay, so I got those out. I'll take them out the rest of the way. And this refrigerator is maybe 10, 12 years old. So some of the plastic pieces are a little fragile and cracking perhaps. So we're taking out the last screw. Slide that out. Put the screws off to the side. And now we'll take out this back panel. And lay that off to the side. So now you can see that we have, behind that panel, we have two here's going to be the noise again from that we're trying to fix from that blend door. So, you know, you might want to turn the power off to your refrigerator with the circuit breaker, since this is a built-in refrigerator, and I'm trying to do this with one hand. We're just going to disconnect the disconnects. A little tough. You squeeze and a pull, and it's as simple as that. And now we can slide this out. And let me grab this other, we'll get another angle and show you this other panel. And so, actually last week when I took this apart, I had taken off this cover, which is two screws that covers the wires. So you see the two screw holes. And I didn't put it back on because I knew I was going to be doing this exercise again. So we've got the shelf screwed out, and we're now going to take off this register in the back, and that's going to be 4 screws again. 1, 2, 1 up here, and 1 up here. So we'll just take those out. And better angle on this here. I'm not a professional photographer by any means, so we're just going to go with the wrong hand and take out these 4 screws. And I think you get the point. When I get the 4 screws out, we'll come back. Alright, so I'm back, and I got the 2 bottom screws loosened, and I think the correct order is to take off the 2 screws that held that panel on that I showed you before, so you can get to these wires. And then there's going to be 3 quick disconnects again for the shelf. You see the wires, so let's disconnect those 3 wires. So I'm going to disconnect these 3 wiring harnesses, and having the camera here makes everything a lot harder than it actually is. There's your noise again for the blend door we're trying to fix. So that's 1. I got this one. I'm trying to do this with one hand while holding a camera. It's not easy. So I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to disconnect those 3 and come back. Okay, so I disconnected those 3 wiring harnesses, which frees up. I've disconnected those 3 wiring harnesses now, which frees up the shelf so that it can now just slide straight out. And now the 3 wiring harnesses that were on the bottom under here, you know, the colors of the wires are the same, and they're different size harnesses. The ones on the top that we disconnected earlier were different color, or the same. Well, actually, the wires are marked different. So this is pink gray. It's going to go to white, and then this one here is actually the purples. So, but I marked them just so I would know where they would go. So I put a mark on the purple gray, and a mark on the white, just to know that they would be going back in the same spot. So now we're going to just slide this tray out and set it off to the side, which gets us access to that diffuser. So now we have clearer access to the diffuser. I could take these top screws out a little easier. There's the diffuser out. So we'll take that out of the way. Set that off to the side. And now you'll be able to see the culprit. This here, where I'm pointing, is our blend door, which will open and close as the refrigerator needs cooling to let cold air come from the freezer through the door and into the refrigerator. So now what we're going to do is, to access this blend door, is we're going to take this shroud off, which actually houses the blend door. Now, I don't know, maybe a professional repair guy would have took all these slides out, but I found that it wasn't necessary to do. It's simple to work around them. So now, to get the shroud out that's housing our blend door, we have one screw and then two screws on the side, and then we're just gonna have to pry this up a little bit because it gets glued down a little bit with, I know, just from time being held down. So we're going to take those three screws out, and then we'll remove the shroud. Okay, so I got the three screws out. There's one. The other two are very loose on the sides. It's a little tough to reach to grab out. So now, with a flathead screwdriver, we're just going to, let me put this out of the way and put the camera. I'm just going to slide this under and just break it loose a little bit. Being very gentle because it's cheap plastic, you know. So I'm just gonna pry this up, break the seal. It looks like we've gotten it pried away. And now we should be able to pull. So we got that side loose. Gather our screws. Another screw over here. So there's our three screws. We've broken this side away, it's loose. And now what we're going to do is we're going to push it to the right, because it's kind of there's a kind of a hump on the plastic that slides into the freezer. And there we go, and then it's free. So you see now it's free. And what we can do now is we could just leave it like that. We turned it so we can access the blend door. You can see the blend door is open because I still have the refrigerator running, trying to do this quickly and not have to empty the whole refrigerator and get a temporary refrigerator for the food. So now there's this gasket, a seal, as you can see, and it's stuck onto everything with some 2-way tape. So being that I somewhat released it the last time I tried to attempt to do this, a little bit easier for me to release. And there is our offending unit, our blend door. So now what I can do is, while holding the camera and with one hand and pulling down the gasketing, I can start to pull out this blend door. Perhaps I should set up the, let me set up this stand. Okay, so now we have the unit out. Pull down the weather strip, and now with two hands it'll be much easier to slide out. Oh, and the door just closed on me. There it goes again, and now you could hear the noise coming from the unit, which is what we're doing this for. Now around the side here are some of the wires, and this set of wires goes through a hole, so you have to feed the wires through as you pull the unit out, and we're going to feed the wires through. Now this is 12 volts, so it's not going to be so bad, and hopefully we got that on camera. But this is the unit we're looking to replace, and the next thing we're going to do is just going to press and release. Maybe a little easier with a screwdriver. Just press and release the quick connect, disconnect. And here's our old blend door. And what we'll do is we'll bring it back to the bench, and we'll put the 12 volts on there again, and we'll show you how it operates as a defective unit, and maybe we'll even take it apart and see what the bad gears look like after we're all done. So now on a side by side, you can see that the new one and the old one, this be the old one, this is the new one. So we're gonna put that old one to the side. The first step we're gonna do is plug in the new one. So the quick connect, we're just gonna slide it on. Simple as that. I'm gonna hold down the weather stripping, the seal. We're going to pull the wires through the hole in the back of the case as we slide the new blend door back into the housing. It's in. Now what we're going to do is just put the seal back up, stick it in place. It's still pretty sticky. We're going to make sure our wires are still tucked back on the side of this housing. And now we're going to swing it back into place. So let me get this camera. And now we're going to, with one hand again, we're going to swing this back into place. And we're going to now slide the left side into place. Give it a nice shove over. We're going to check that our screw holes line up. And then we're going to reinstall our 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3 in the back. So I'm going to do that so I don't have to hold the camera while I'm installing those 3 screws, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we're back. And one of the good things about not following the rules is, as I was putting this thing back on with the power on, blend door opened, and lo and behold, to my surprise, we find out, like a woman sometimes, twins. Lo and behold, we got twins. There's actually 2 blend doors stacked, one on top of each other, and I hadn't noticed that the first time I did this. I guess it was open in the open position, and I hadn't seen the second one. So apparently the bottom blend door, and as you can see back in the corner, you have 2 holes going into the freezer for 2 blend doors. And we're going to do some cleanup over there, clean this up, but evidently it looks like I'm going to be doing this a 3rd time. I'll be putting this back together, and we'll be doing this a 3rd time. I might just, and there we saw the blend door just close, and now it's opening, so that one's working well, and it's quiet. So now I tested this one, and this one's making some noises. So I think I'm going to put the other one that I just took out back in this place because it's less noisy than this one. We'll put this all back together, and then maybe we'll I'll videotape the reassembly because it'll be the same when I do this the 3rd time. I'm going to get a second blend door now that I know we needed 2, and maybe we'll dissect this puppy and see what exactly goes wrong to make these things fail. So let me put this other blend door back in and do a little cleanup, and then we'll start the reassembly. So as you can see, when you shake these bad blend doors, you hear something rattling around in there, so the gears must be coming apart in them. This one's not as bad. Might have got the part to stick inside somewhere, but let's do some cleanup in the back there from some spillage, it looks like, and then put this back, and then we'll start reassembling. Alright, so we're back, and I've cleaned up a little bit. We've inserted the one new damper door, and as we now know, we have twins. We have 2 damper doors. So this is going to be the new one. This is going to be replaced at a future date. So we'll make believe we're putting this thing back together, and I'll have to be doing this a 3rd time to get this done. But now I'm a pro at it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our gasket. It's still sticky. We're going to stick it back on, surprisingly enough. We're going to tuck our wires in, make sure they're in the slot. And now we're going to flip this back up into place. Checking our wires. Check that side. And then we'll push it to the left, get everything lined up. And again, I'll be doing this a 3rd time once I receive that next blend door. So we're going to make sure we're lined up in the holes. I could see our screw holes are down there. And I'm going to put these 2 screws on this side and the one on the bottom, and then I'll get back to you. Alright, so I have 3 screws in, 1 there and the 2 on the side. And the next step I believe we're going to do is we're going to slide that tray back in. Move my light up a little bit. The lights, these wires, when you disconnect these wires, the lights go out. So we have to get a temporary light. And let's slide our tray back in. Alright, so we have our tray lined back up into the slot. I'm going to slide it back gently. Make sure we're not catching any wires. Oops. Not quite lined up on this side. We're going to line this up. Hold it up while we slide it back. And now we're going to make our connections. Wrong wires. So let's see if I can do this without holding the camera. So we're going to connect this one and this one. This might make the lights come back on. Now I'll get this one connected to this one. Push those off to the side. That's how it goes. Now we're going to make our connections back under the bottom. We're going to connect the 3 connectors we previously disconnected, and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so we slid the tray back loosely. It's loose. We made our 3 connections back in the bottom corner. We're going to check this, and we have power, so we're good to go. So I think the next step we're going to do is to show you a completed job, even though I got to take this apart again. So we're going to put this cover back on to cover the wires. So this just slides back like yay. And now we have 2 screws. To hold it in place. Screwdriver. Not a lefty, but doing the trick. And that blend door just opened again, or closed. And actually the second blend door isn't making much noise, so I might order the part and just wait till it starts being a little noisy before I change it. Alright, so now we're going to put that diffuser back on the back here. So let's grab that and then we'll get that installed. So a good tip, I believe, for this getting this diffuser in is, you see the top screw holes are slotted and the bottom are slotted as well. So what I'm doing is, being that you're working with that shelf, is I put the top screws in. Okay, see the other one over there. We'll slide this up into the slots, tighten them up, and then insert the bottom screws. Okay, so we got the diffuser pushed back. We're going to line up the screws. Very difficult to do with one hand and no helper. So I think you get the gist. We're going to put this up and put the 4 screws in, and then we'll come back after that's screwed in place. Okay, so we have our 4 screws reinstalled in that diffuser panel, register, whatever you want to call it. Our side panel covering the wires is back screwed in. And now we're going to move to the top of the shelf again. You see the power is back on the shelf. It's a powered shelf. We're going to make sure our water lines are in the slot. Push the shelf back. And then we're going to reinstall the 4 screws. So let's get those 4 screws. Get some lighting in there. And our 4 screws lined up. Wires. And 1 screw. Two screw. And again, we're going old school with a manual screwdriver, and I'm sure it'll be quicker. The wireless or cordless screwdriver, you just want to make sure that you don't strip everything when you use your cordless driver. Tighten these 4. And I'll get that last one. I'll get that last screw in, and then we'll come back. So we've got our 4 screws holding our shelf in. We got our power on our shelf. Next is to put that rear panel back over the water condenser. 2 screws on the top to hold it, and 2 screws on that side to hold it. So we'll get that panel. Alright, so we have our panel in place. And now what we'll do is we'll lift it up. And we'll line up the screw holes on both sides. And we'll just install the screws. So we're going to put those 4 screws in. And it'll be easy without the camera, so we'll just install those 4 screws, and then we'll show you what it's like installed. Okay, so our back panel is installed. 4 screws, 2 on that side and 2 on that side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the bottom drawer, middle drawer, and upper middle drawer back in place. You could just heard the tamper doors open and the noise is gone. Now, first we're going to put this glass shelf back in. Forgot that one, so I'm going to line it up in the slots. It's a little hard to do on the camera. I'm going to tip the bottom down so it tilts over the stop, and we're going to slide it back, and we're going to slide it past the stop in the back. Oh, it's still tilted higher in the back. Then we're going to lift the front, and let the back drop down. So now it's in there nice and sturdy. And now we're going to reinstall the 3 drawers. So we'll pull out the frames, install those drawers, and continue. Alright, so we got the 3 drawers back in place. Just a matter of sliding them in, tipping the back in, tip the front up, slide the back in, and then drop the front onto the rails. And now we're going to put the panel back on the front. So we'll take a minute, we'll get that panel set up, and we'll put the panel on, put the trim on, and we'll wrap this up. Okay, so we have our panel. What we're going to do is open the door and then slide the panel onto the tracks from left to right. Start at the bottom, hook it in, slide in the tracks. Now we're going to put the metal holder piece back, trim piece, to hold it back the end of the panel so it can't slide out. So that, we'll get that. And this L-shaped piece will go into the slot, and then we'll screw the 16 screws back in. And I'll finish screwing in the rest of the screws and continue. Okay, so we're going to put our last screw in. All screws are in, and now we're going to get that final trim piece. Insert it in the plastic holder at the bottom. You can remove that if you want, it's an extra step. Slide it, line it up, slide it down. We got a two-way tape on the back. It's still a little sticky. Yours isn't sticky. We'll have to replace it. We got our plastic retainer clip. And 2 screws. You might need a little step stool to see the top screws. Found them okay. Line everything back up, make sure it's all fits perfectly. And then we'll just tighten everything up. And we're done. All right, and we're not quite done. Got to put that pin back in on the bottom to stop the door at 90 degrees opening if you need it. If you don't have cabinets on your side, then you won't need it. But I need to reinstall the pin, this pin, back under the back corner where I showed you I took it out before. It's just a matter of screwing it in, tightening, and then you're done. Alright, so now we're going to test out the dampener motor that we took out and replaced, and we'll put some 12-volt power to it and open it up and see what noises it makes. And that's not the right polarity, so we'll reverse the polarity, get it to open. And that's our noise. And I guess we got it out just in time, because now it doesn't even want to completely open. So we'll reverse the polarity and get it to close. So it closes. Let's try changing the angle. Reverse the polarity to get it to open. And she seems to be shot. So now we'll take it apart and see what's inside. Okay, so I've loosened up the 4 screws that hold this thing together. We'll take them out. Now we'll pop this thing open. Still got 1 screw being difficult. So now we'll open it up and see what's inside. Let's see how we do this without falling apart. It says the dampener door comes apart from the motor, operated by So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to flip this clip. This clip here to take this with the case. You see inside. The first thing I notice is that the case has got a crack in it. It's actually cracked. So that's probably part of the problem. And there's some play there that might play into it. Then if we take out some of these gears, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, but some of the gears and the plastic parts have broken off and are floating around inside. So basically it's failure of plastic over the years. So it's trash.